Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thanks for your patience. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is any public comment. So any persons wishing to make public comment during this meeting on any items not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Come forward to the mic, state your name. Can you come stand if you don't mind, sir? If you're okay too.
John Crow.
Mm-hmm. And are you a resident of Montgomery Township?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I have comments on certain topics on the agenda.
The comment now is for anything not on the agenda. When we get to whatever topic. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, item number 5 is the announcement of executive session. Township Solicitor.
Yes, Madam Chair. The Board of Supervisors met in executive session earlier this evening at 6:30 to discuss real estate and personnel matters. These topics are legitimate subjects of the executive session provisions under the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Sunshine Law. Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is the consent agenda. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented for the following minutes of the November 10, 2025 and November 14, 2025 Board of Supervisor meeting. Payment of bills for November 24, 2025, Firefox Phase 2, end of maintenance, and the Shake Shack escrow release number 2 and start of maintenance. Second. Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then our next item is the presentation of the 2026 proposed township budget. Carolyn McCreary.
Good evening. As requested by the chair, I'm going to go over my presentation from the meeting of November 10th. And I added a couple slides just for tonight, but I won't take really long because I do want to delve into some numbers with you. You should each have a hard copy at your place. So the first thing I want to talk about is the tax base. So in order to understand where we're going, we need to understand sort of what the township is comprised of and where we've been in the past. We have 10,182 taxable parcels in the township. That includes residential, commercial, industrial. That assessment of those properties is a little over $2 billion. We have 209 exempt parcels. Those have an exempt assessment of a little over $72 million, which means we do not collect any real estate tax from those parcels. As stated at your meeting on November 10th, when the Sewer Authority came in and presented their budget, Ms. Drosnock stated that 98% of the township is built out, which means that there is only room for redevelopment at this point. We've had some small subdivisions recently, the largest one being the townhomes put in by WB Homes behind the Wawa on 309. I believe that was 32 or 36 townhomes. Most recently, we've seen 2-lot subdivision, a 4-lot subdivision on the northern end of the township. One other thing that we're seeing is we are seeing successful real estate assessment appeals. So obviously, a resident who appeals their property value is not as impactful in the township because we are the smallest portion of the tax bill. However, we're starting to see larger parcels, commercial parcels, appealing their value. And in some cases, they are negotiating a new value because the school district is impacted the most. And the fear is if we go to court over this and they're successful, we could all lose even more tax revenue. So in the past, the attorneys for the school district, as well as the property owner themselves, have negotiated new assessed values that were agreed on and put through with the court. And we are seeing a reduction in our valuation. It is not dramatic, but it is a trend that we're seeing. We're seeing more appeals being won or negotiated downward for us, which obviously will impact the real estate tax revenue we bring in. And this is an average. So we have 9,461 residential parcels in the township. The township resident, the average tax bill, understanding there are some that are higher and there are obviously some that are lower, is $491 a year. The average home in the township is assessed at $166,938. Assessed does not mean obviously the current value of the property. It is what the property was assessed at for tax purposes. Our current millage is 2.94 mils, and it's based on that value that has been determined by the Montgomery County Board of Assessments for each individual home. And obviously the North Penn School District and the county are separate taxing authorities. Rates as of November 1st are in place, and ours is still remains the lowest. So of that $491, $190 would go towards our general fund, $94 would go to our fire fund, $87 to our parks fund, $75 to our capital fund, and $45 to our debt service fund. And then of the $190 that goes towards the general fund, $108 of it goes towards police because we still have 24/7, 365 police services. $45 goes to general services. That includes administration, finance, our professional fees, our solicitor, our engineering, our planning, our insurance that we have to pay. $25 goes to Public Works for their operations, $9 towards code enforcement, and $3 towards tax collection. And in our case, tax collection is not just our local tax collector, it's Berkheimer Associates, who charges us a fee to collect our earned income tax, our local services tax, our business privilege tax, and our mercantile tax. So we are at 2.94 mils, and I apologize that this is difficult to see, but this is really the only way to show this. There are 38 townships in Montgomery County. We rank number 23 with our millage of 2.94. If you look at the ones below us, 1/3 of the municipalities below us have no police department. They are covered solely by state police, and that includes Upper Frederick, Upper Salford, Salford Township, Skippack Township, and Worcester Township. You'll note that Plymouth Township is we are at 2.94. Plymouth Township is at 2.945. And Plymouth Township has recently been in the news because the Plymouth Meeting Mall has been sold and is going to be redeveloped into a town center, bringing more income into the township as well as a higher, obviously, real estate tax value. The highest millage right now for municipality is Cheltenham Township. They are at almost 10 mils, and we are at 2.94. This graph shows the North Penn School District. You'll see the highest millage is Lansdale Borough, and I read just recently that North Wales is looking to increase their tax rate by 1 mil, which would put them the same as Lansdale. Obviously, the boroughs are very different. They are much more developed. Lansdale's 3 square miles, I believe 18,000 residents, and they have seen their redevelopment. So they have seen townhouses getting infilled in vacant lots. They have seen several abandoned factories turned into loft apartments. And so they are seeing a resurgence, but again, there is no room for growth for them. What sets Lansdale apart is they have their own electric distribution system, and that money, proceeds from it go in to support their general fund operations. Upper Gwinnett is the lowest at 2.041, followed by us at 2.94, followed by Hatfield Borough, Hatfield Township, and then Towamencin Township. This is something that we put out every year, and there's a reason. I think visually it works. This is a tax bill for 2025. So of the property taxes that a resident in North Penn pays in Montgomery Township, 79% of it goes to the school district, 14% goes to the county, and 7% goes to the township. I touched on capital investments a little bit last time, but I asked, and I have to thank Lucy Gonzalez for sort of taking my random comments and putting together more slides for me. So we borrowed $15 million in 2021 at 1.725% interest with a 30-year payback. Couple of things to note. Some statements have been made off and on through recent meetings about our fiscal stewardship. And I wanted to remind the board that when we borrowed this money, we received a AAA rating from Standard & Poor's, which is the highest rating you can get from the rating agency. And because we're really proud of this, I wanted to point out some of the things that they said in their report to us. The reason we received a AAA rating, it's strong management with good financial policies and practices under our financial management assessment methodology. You'll recall you didn't have a fund balance policy, you do now. You didn't have an investment policy, you do now. The board was very proactive in making sure that not only did we know how our money was being spent, but we had there was a plan in place should we come into another economic downturn, should we have another, where we see our residents, having problems with employment or anything like that. We needed to have a strong reserves policy as well as a strong fund balance policy. They cited us for strong budgetary performance with operating results that they expected would weaken in 2020 because of the pandemic, which we actually closed with operating surpluses in the general fund and at the total local government level in fiscal 2020. They cited our very strong budgetary flexibility with an available fund balance in 2020 of 32% of our operating expenditures. So just like we tell people you should have so much in your savings for a rainy day fund, the same thing holds for local governments, and we exceed the recommended thing. And then the last thing they talked about was strong institutional framework so that we have the pieces in place to continue on this path. And the reason we borrowed money is because we did not have a capital improvement plan when the board came into play in 2020. We call it a capital investment plan because obviously it's investment in our infrastructure, in our fixed assets, but it's also an investment in our community. Everything we do is not just going to benefit the residents who are here and now, it's going to benefit who buys the house after them. So whether it's a park improvement or traffic signal improvement, purchase of our fire truck, we bought a brand new ladder truck during this time, replacement of public works trucks that could be counted on, not just in normal operations, but during winter snow events that they weren't breaking down because of their age and then creating problems for us that way. This has been something that has been brought up several times as we've been spending through our capital money. This is where you'll see in 2021, we had a little over $22 million. And that's because we had borrowed the $15 million. And then we have been spending it down. But there was a plan in place. And every capital expenditure, even though it was included in the budget, was brought forward back to the board, in full transparency, whether it was through the bidding process or whether we were only required to get 3 quotes because of the amount. But you will see as of 10/31/25, we are looking at a little over $7 million available in our fund balance. And if we spend what we think in 2026, then we're looking at almost 2.5 million. It is a dramatic difference. And the department heads are aware of that. We have spent down our bond proceeds. We also know that we are not seeing a major surplus every year. We have been very fortunate in past years, but we do not come in here counting on that. So 2026 is going to look very different when the year is finished. And if there are things that can be delayed or things that we don't need to do, we will not do them. But we did include them in the budget because we wanted to be transparent with you on that. The general fund accounts for our main operating account. It covers our everyday services that benefit all of our residents, including public safety, parks and recreation, administration, and maintenance. So this is a 5-year summary of the general fund, and you will see in the past 5 years, the majority of our money has been spent towards public safety. This includes police. It includes the contribution towards the volunteer fire department, which primarily is the pass-through of the relief association money that we get in from the Commonwealth. We also pay their workers' comp insurance, and this also represents the contribution you're making annually to our EMS, VMSC EMS. You'll recall a few years ago, we had some grave concerns about whether EMS was going to still be viable in this area, and we actually had looked at bringing in another firm or possibly even having to start our own as part of our public safety measures, but we did not have to. The other thing I wanted to point out is that contracted services, that's a term that DCED uses, but really it makes up our tax collection fees, our legal fees, our engineering, and our insurance, which is our property and liability and our workers' comp. And along those lines of insurance, we just received a notice that our insurance that we pay for our volunteer firefighters for workers' comp is going up 10% next year. So in sort of unintended consequences, there was a great piece of legislation brought forward and adopted in Harrisburg. It's the cancer presumption legislation, so that if a firefighter faces a cancer diagnosis, there is a presumption that it's a result of the work they have done, because they are exposed to chemicals, not just in the foam that they use to put out fires, but in some of the fires that they've actually been at. The unintended consequence was the commercial insurers couldn't figure out how to come up with a number of what their possible exposure was, so they walked away. So we were left with having to go into the state plan, and now the state plan is burdened by all of these fire departments having to be covered by them, and so we're seeing a 10% increase next year in that cost. Going forward for 2026, you'll see once again, we're looking at the majority of our general fund money going towards public safety. So included in that is the police department. It is also $200,000 contribution, again, going to VMSC EMS, and it is the Relief Association money that gets passed through to by the township, as well as the insurance that we pay for our volunteers and the tax credit that we give to the volunteers if they are considered an active member based on the criteria that's been established by the fire department. And then just final notes before I look at some numbers with you and take any questions. We are guaranteeing a continuation of all township services. We are guaranteeing continued fiscal stewardship. Every staff member, especially department heads and myself, are very aware that we are using taxpayer money for everything we do. And then expanded community engagement. Some comments have been made, obviously, in our recent discussions about getting the word out about what we're doing. So we are going to look at bringing back more written communication that'll go to households, as opposed to just relying on social media or podcasts and getting the word out that way. And then finally, we remain committed to excellence in everything that we do on behalf of the township. In your packet that was provided to you for November 10th, there is a memo to the board from me. Since that time, our finance director, Mr. Berge, has gone through some numbers again for the budget. He was able to find a couple $100,000 in the general fund because he panicked. He's new, and I was questioning constantly, and we double counted on one benefit line in there. So we took that out, corrected it. So actually, the general fund is going to see an 8% increase over last year's operations. However, the proposed difference between the revenue and the expenditures is $293,000 less than we were anticipating. The big question mark for us, obviously tonight, is going to be what we're going to do with the fire budget. You have seen 4 different scenarios in recent meetings that we will need direction from the board tonight. Every other department is pretty much operating within their parameters. As far as the capital, we are aware of our position, and that everything is costing more. We were very fortunate this year that every capital item or project pretty much has come in at or under budget. However, we don't know that going forward. Obviously, all politics aside, tariffs being in play, prevailing wage, our projects have to be paid prevailing wage because we are a municipality. And at the same time, grants. Everybody says get grants. Well, everyone's trying to get grants. I interviewed a firm today that's all they do is they help municipalities get grants because I wanted to see what the cost was versus what the reward could be for the township. We always apply for grants where we can because someone's going to get that money and it might as well be Montgomery Township. Perfect example is the traffic signal improvement project slated for English Village and Gwinnett Crossing. That project is about $700,000 and we received a grant of a little over $500,000. And then we will split the difference of the cost with Horsham Township. So what could have been a $700,000 project that we would have split, we're ultimately, I think, going to probably pay close to $90,000 each when is all said and done. Our parks, Fellowship Park received DCNR grant. Friendship Park received a DCNR grant. Whistle Stop Park received a DCNR grant as well as a DCE grant. We received a grant from the state to put the pedestrian crossing by the Village Shopping Center along with putting sidewalks in leading to the rec center. But we are drawing down on our fund balance in the capital reserves as well as taking money from the general fund balance. Now, with that proposed transfer from the general fund, we are still meeting GFOA requirements or really strong recommendations to have between 15 and 20% put aside, to cover our expenses in case something happens. We're very fortunate in that because we have such a diverse revenue stream, the beginning of the year, we have money to pay our bills. There are currently municipalities that do what's called tax anticipation notes because they don't have enough tax revenue held out from the prior year to be able to pay their January, February, March bills. Real estate taxes go out in March, payments start coming in April, and they don't have the funds. We've been very fortunate because you have a business privilege tax, a mercantile tax, the earned income tax. You have residents who work in so many different fields and in so many different locations. So we have not seen some of the problems that some communities do when they're in that situation. I was talking to a manager recently in Bucks County. The top 10 wage earners in their county make up 40% of earned income tax. So if any of them decide to relocate to another state, they could be really greatly impacted. We are very fortunate that even though we have seen our housing stock diminish and the prices go up, you're still a really desirable community for people to want to live and work here. And that has helped us tremendously. The big box stores, love them or hate them, they serve a real strong purpose for people who maybe can't afford to buy the things they need for their families in small, like boutique kind of stores. So all you have to do is drive by those stores and you see their busyness. The restaurants we have, I attended the awards banquet for VNSC last weekend. And when I came down 309, every restaurant was packed on a Saturday night, which is really healthy for us to see that these restaurants are remaining viable when so many are still struggling and closing their doors in some cases. But the capital, the department heads are aware that it is really going to be down to needs. What do we need for 2027? And to really, think it out. Does it have to be 27? Can it be 28? But we need to rely on a strong general fund to be able to keep replenishing that at a rate. The last tax increase you did was because the board noted, specifically Ms. Bamford noted, that we were falling behind. We don't have that influx of cash going into reserves, and yet our projects are costing more and more. Our purchases are more and more. So we put in millage, and $853,000 each year going forward is going into those capital funds. But you can see this year we're proposing close to $10 million, and that's without road paving. The road paving is going to be solely done through liquid fuels, which is money from the state. But even that is lower in 2026 than it was in 2025, because that's a direct function on what people are paying at the gas pumps. If they aren't buying as much fuel, the state is not collecting as much tax and doesn't have as much money to distribute to us. So right now, when you look at our capital budget, 24% of the funding of that capital is from grants, including the grant for the Power Line Trail, the grants for Whistle Stop Park, the grant for English Village and Gwinnett Crossing signal replacement, and the state multimodal grant, which was for the Stump Road Sidewalk and Pedestrian Crossing project. We have $195,000 coming in from Horsham Township and Lansdale. Horsham, as I said, is for the shop or for the the shopping center. Lansdale, we have to do engineering and design work for the 2 culverts on that road. The good news is that we have to share the cost of Lansdale. I'm also hoping that will give us a stronger application, any grants that we're eligible for, and we'll be seeking out our state representative and our state senator to help guide us into what grants we might be eligible for, because there are local share grants, which come from gaming money in the Commonwealth. And I'm hoping that, just like with Whistle Stop Park, since our park is actually in Hatfield Township, I'm hoping that Knapp Road, being proximity of a school, that maybe Safe Streets, in school program, the LSA program, the multimodal, whatever, the Green Light Go, whatever we can get money from to sort of lower that burden on not just our taxpayers, but Lansdale's as well. But the underwater inspections they did show that it needs to be done sooner rather than later. And we have a lot of, heavier vehicles that go over there, but we have to work with the school district to coordinate that work as well. And we have one resident who actually lives between both culverts, so we cannot work on them simultaneously. We're estimating taking $972,000 from the liquid fuels fund balance to go towards our road projects next year. And next year we'll also be doing curbing work, because what Public Works tries to do is do curbs on roads one year and the handicap ramps, and then the following year is when we pave those roads, so that we're not sitting there tearing up roads. You don't have the contractor who's doing concrete with the paver sort of right on their heels. And again, unfortunately, curbing and handicap ramps are not covered by liquid fuels money. I would argue that curbs hold up the roads, but I'm not an engineer, and PennDOT says otherwise. So any money we get from liquid fuels has to either go to things like our road salt, or it has to go towards our road maintenance. We can't put it towards anything else. I know we went over the capital projects at a prior meeting, but I just wanted to remind you that some of the things that are on there are holdovers from 2025 that just couldn't be done this year. In some cases, it was because of engineering. In some cases, it's because we haven't received delivery yet, like our street sweeper. We have a street sweeper on order. The good news is it's expected to be here the beginning of January, as opposed to just a couple of years ago when we were ordering things and hearing that there was an 18 to 24 month lead time on them. The 309 in English Village traffic signal was supposed to have been done this year, as was the pedestrian improvement project along Stump Road. So they're being carried forward. We have gone through this with the board, and as I said, we'll be coming back in as we go and move forward. Montgomery Elementary Bridge, the bridge up by the school, needs to be replaced. Anybody who drives by it, you can see it looks like it was sort of put together. It's with not really a firm idea of design. So we want to make sure that it's safe for everybody going across it. There are a lot of people who walk their children to Montgomery Elementary in the morning and use that bridge. And a lot of residents who are walking along the neighborhoods, coming out along Stump Road, taking the sidewalk all the way up to County Line Road. So we want to make sure that that bridge is as safe as possible. We have other items. There's 2 patrol vehicles are going to be purchased this year, 2026. We have replacement of the radios. We're waiting on the county to find out whether we're going to need to do that or not, but we have to put it in the budget, because if they move forward at the pace they're saying, we need to have a plan in place to keep doing that. We have preemption updates in place. Preemption is where emergency vehicles can approach an intersection, and the other 3 lanes of traffic, they'll stop automatically, they'll get a red light. We had a sound system in place from back in the day that wasn't working. PennDOT agreed to put preemption in at 5 points in all areas, and not at our cost, if we kept moving forward to upgrade our preemption as well. We've done County Line Road, we've done Horsham Road. We just awarded the bid for 309, and that is the last portion of it as far as the major roads. And then we have to do some of the side intersections that meet those major roads so that the preemption works for all of our emergency vehicles. We are not looking at any staff expansion in the other departments as far as the general fund operations. We are set. I've talked to every department head about where they're at with things. None of them have indicated that they need more staffing to get the work done. I think we're really proud of the fact that the majority of our employees are forward facing. So Public Works, Fire, Police, we have very lean operations behind the scenes, whether it's code enforcement, finance, admin, and yet we're still figuring out ways to get the work done. Public information now, which our resources have gone there as opposed to some of the other things that we did in the past. The automation, the fact that we were able to outsource our taxes the way we have has helped in finance, but now we're seeing, me in, public information. We have a GIS person, which is just, we had no idea when we approached you, just the magnitude of, some had that. I didn't know it. I didn't know really how the scope of her work would touch on so many departments, and even, on the webpage, the things that she's been able to do. And she's been recognized, by her peers because of what we're putting out there. Her, GIS with Jen is a the fact that she's taken, the work order system and made it better. She's done just so much for us. And so, but she's one person and she's across so many, talking about basins, because I said, I need a map to show me all the basins in the township and I want to see which ones are nationalized, which ones we own. And I said, can you set up that many layers? She's already working on it. So, well, and now we're talking about stormwater pipes because we had stormwater fail because we ran, the corrugated metal pipes are not holding up. It's been years and years, decades of water going through them, and water is very corrosive. And I said, hey, Jen, I need you to map all the stormwater pipes, and then I need to see which ones we've worked on so far and which ones have been televised so far and which ones haven't, because I need to make a presentation to the board. And so she added that to her list as well. So for all of our other operations, we're not proposing anything to change. The millage that we have in place gives us enough funds along with those other revenue streams that we can continue moving forward the way we've planned.
Was conversation of possibly a part-time HR person?
That's in the budget, yes.
Okay.
And I spoke to Chris at length about that, and she believes part-time is what she needs. If she could get an intern, it would be great, but she really thinks a part-time employee to take on some of the work dealing with HR is confidential. So she wants to have someone who, reports to her and understands the impact of what they might be seeing or working with.
Carolyn, I'm a little concerned about the capital reserve fund and going, I guess, into 2027. You're projecting a fund balance of 2.47 million, and yet we've got already in the capital investment plan over $4 million of projects targeted for that year, for that calendar year. So we're projecting, almost a $1 million shortfall in 2027. So have we made any provision in this budget for an additional millage increase to supplement that fund or any other? I know we were going to do a $3.5 million general fund transfer into the capital reserves. We can't be guaranteed. We don't know whether or not we're going to have funds in, at the end of 2026 to offset that shortfall.
You're absolutely right. We don't know one year to another with the general fund because there's too many outside things that can impact our revenue stream. So, for example, our real estate transfer taxes. Homes are selling for more than they ever have before. The inventory is lower, so therefore we've lowered what we expect to get in 2026. For 2027, my goal in 26 was one of the reasons why I interviewed that firm today about what it would cost us to really sort of get ambitious with our grant applications is because I think we need to be better at our grant, at receiving the grants. We've been very fortunate, but in some grants we don't apply for because if they talk about job creation or if they talk about brownfield or if they talk about certain income levels, certain census tracts qualify for DCED funding that we just don't have. But in order to do this, I would never come in and ask for a tax increase for that without knowing that we've really exhausted all other resources. And grants really are what we're going to need to focus on in 2026 for 27. These are numbers that were put in by the department heads. This is going out, but everything is not necessarily an immediate need in my mind. They're going to have to talk to me about, for example, I know stormwater, because we know we have a problem with the older neighborhoods. That's for sure. Traffic, we want to do the intersection of Taylor, Lansdale Avenue, and I guess it's Cowpath up there. However, there's Green Light Go grants, there's Harley grants, and there's also multimodal grants. So I want to see what's available before, and if we put a grant application into 26 and we don't know that we're going to get it until 27, then we would push that intersection off to 28. And then if we got the grant, we would be able to move forward with it, because all the grants that we apply for and that we've been successful with are all reimbursement grants. So you have the money, but you have to put the money out first. But it is a real concern. You're absolutely right. And this is, I don't mean to cut you off, but this is sort of still a function of what you inherited when you came in.
Yeah.
There was no plan.
No, there was no plan.
You're
And
doing a 5-year plan. When I came into you and said $15 million, and now granted, a lot of it was infrastructure, things people will never see. They'll never see the fact that there's a new controller box at this intersection, which now has everything in it up to date that needs to be done, and the cost that goes into that. But they had to be done. 5 years was enough to sort of make everybody's eyes roll. And we got so fortunate that when we locked in that interest rate, under 2%, we can't touch that now. So any decisions we make going forward, it's going to be, I think, something we even have to bring in regularly to the board, even quarterly, to say these are the grants we applied for the project. This is the current budget that our engineers are telling us they're going to be, and work for it. I don't know in the fall of next year what we'll be saying to you in terms of the revenue stream for that.
so my concern here is, well, and first, let me just take a step back to say, when I was first sworn in and served on this board in 2018, I remember having spoken with someone at DCED about a particular grant opportunity. And they were like, wow, Montgomery Township hasn't applied for a grant in years. And I am excited to see now that like 24% of capital funding is coming via grants. That's huge improvement since I've been on this board, and you deserve a lot of credit for that. So I'm happy to hear that we're going to continue to pursue more grant opportunities, because again, we have a real pressing need here. But I kind of feel like I don't want to just kick this can down the road. We can only put these projects off for so long. When we put this original capital investment plan together, there wasn't fluff put into it. It was just, a matter of mapping out, here are our assets and here's what needs to be replaced. Here's their replacement schedule. And let's project out what those costs are so that we could be better prepared financially to cover all of those costs. So when I see our capital fund dwindling to such a low level, I'm not sure how much grant applications and fund transfers will really, how much longer that's going to last. That's a real concern for me.
I agree. And so $1 million of that is for the Knapp Road culverts. So obviously we want to try to get grants. If we can't get grants, Lansdale's on the hook for 500,000 of it. That's assuming that the project comes in at that. We don't know what 27 will show us.
So we're putting the full $1 million in, even though we know a portion of that is going to be
Well,
shared.
if you look on this page 2, it says, if you look at the capital improvement or capital investment plan, the first page under cost sharing, you'll see there's 547.5 listed for Lansdale Borough under 2027.
Which one are you looking at?
Page 1 of 5, it says capital investment plan summary.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should have told you the yellow pages. So if you look on page 1 of 5, about 2/3 of the way down, it says cost sharing, and you'll see Lansdale says 110,000 for 2026,
Okay.
and that's for the engineering and design. But when you look at 2027, that's for the 547.5. That's representing their half of the remaining engineering inspections as well as the cost of the project.
So are those then deducted out of the total?
Well, they're offset it. So we still are going to be we're going to take the lead on this and have to pay it, but then we'll bill them for half of whatever the project cost is. But you're right. That's just one project.
Yeah.
The intersection, the traffic signal at 309 and North Wales Road. We've held off on that because obviously the Village of Windsor project's going on. We want them to finish all their work and to see just what they've committed to in terms of those intersection improvements. So that was pushed off. But my big concern remains the stormwater, because we're also part of the Wissahickon Stormwater Group, and that plan is in with the regulators right now, and they're going to give us feedback on it. And if they give us a green light, then we are going to form a consortium and we are going to start applying for grants and prioritizing the projects. And the group as a whole is going to have to fund projects, even if they aren't in their specific municipality, because we're part of that watershed. That was the commitment that's been made by the 13 municipalities, and I think the 4 wastewater plants as well, that, we recognize there's going to be a funding formula. So you're absolutely right. There is a problem there. You can't rely on the general fund because we don't know year to year. We've been very fortunate, and again, it goes with it's not some magic that we did. It's the diversity of our community, whether it's the commercial side, the residential side, where our residents work, the fact that we don't have a lot of vacancies in our industrial areas. So you don't see a ton of reuse there because they're full. There's people who are using those sites. But it's a concern. And you also have, just like other communities, you have exempt properties, and so they're not paying real estate taxes. And so, yes, I believe next fall I'm probably going to have to come in and we'll have to have a discussion based on how things look at that point. Probably over the summer, actually, because we always do capital first. It's just right now with all the discussion that has focused on fire and the possible impact on, the taxing of, our residents, I just felt like we can get through 2026 comfortably, and then we have to look at this. I don't believe you're kicking the can down the road to say, what can we do? How much can we raise on our own with, grant applications that are, given the backing of our elected officials, state reps and the state senator, when they put a letter for us of support, it goes a long way because they're saying that, we're stewards of the money we have and we have a real need here. And so that's what I would be looking at.
I think though, when we last raised taxes, and it was specifically for, supplementing the capital reserve fund, we raised taxes 0.45 mils, and we said at that time that, although this is going to help us, it's not, the final one, but that maybe more smaller incremental increases over time wouldn't have such a big impact on our taxpayers, but would continue to supplement that fund. So I'm not sure that it's something that we want to wait on until next fall to have a conversation about. We can see what the outcome is. At the end of next year, we're going to be facing a major shortfall, and we don't know whether or not we're going to have the funds in the capital reserve, in the general fund, to be able to, to transfer over to meet that need.
That's certainly an option for the board. If the board wanted to put more, even a little bit of millage just to supplement. The issue is because your millage is at under 3, anything you do, people look to the percentage. So if I said, your 3 mils and we're going to put this in, something that's a 33% increase, even though it's only going to generate, a couple $100,000 possibly. It's again, it gets back to our doing a better job of getting our message out. I've already talked to Derek and Eva about working on a podcast to talk about the budget, the budget process and where our tax dollars go, because I feel like people, a lot of people have their tax bills escrowed as part of their mortgage, and they hear taxes are going up. One, they might assume it means their whole tax bill. 2, I think they're sometimes used to the taxing authorities just raise the taxes because they need to. We've never come in and said to you, we need to do it because we can't meet our operations. It's always been specific. It's because of we need to keep funding our capital. Or before that, it was because we've taken on debt and we need to have a revenue stream to pay it back. Or I had to come to you and say, you build a rec center, not you, but a prior board gave authorization for a rec center and didn't put a funding stream in for it. And while the rec center is working hard to pay for its operations, it can't cover the debt that's associated with that. So we refinanced it and then included that in the millage at that time to make sure that all of our debt was covered. And the board, I mean, I have to give the board credit because, there's a new board, a new finance director, a new manager, and we came in with, not gloom and doom, but hey, we've got a problem. And you listened and you respected what was told and you gave us the latitude to take care of it. And that's where we're at now. We took part in the DBRPC retrofitting of all our streetlights. So all of our streetlights are LED, which has cut down dramatically on the amount of service calls we get and the amount of people saying, I don't feel safe walking because my lights are always going out. Everything we've done, we've done with the residents in mind, including the debt, because a traffic signal or a fire truck has such an extended life on it. It shouldn't be just the people who are living here at the time you borrow money. So, you don't just pull all your reserves out and do one project. You spread that cost out because everybody who lives here now is taking advantage of your parks, and their kids are going to take advantage, and grandkids, because we've maintained them so well. But we have 15 parks or 16 now. That's a lot. And they, they're wonderful and they're great amenities, and people in this community, constantly talk about them, but they're a lot of work and they age. The rec center's 10 years old now. So next year, Floyd's going to be talking about 2027. We have to start replacing some of the equipment, or else people aren't going to come anymore because they can go to a Planet Fitness, which didn't exist when that rec center was built, or buy a piece of equipment at home that's like state of the art, and they'll stop coming. And then what do we do? So you're right. Everything we do, we get to a point in its life where we have to come back to you and say it needs to be replaced.
Any other questions? Comments?
No.
Good. Carolyn, thank you for that overview again with added information. So we're going to go into item number 7, which is the authorization to advertise the 2026 proposed budget. Carolyn McCreary. I'm going to read the background.
Thank you. The proposed operating budgets were presented by the department heads and discussed by the board at the budget work session held on October 24th. This work session was a public meeting and was properly advertised. The board previously received my memo providing details of all the funds, including each area of the general fund and the capital investment program. Staff is recommending that the Board of Supervisors authorize the proposed 2026 budget as being available for public inspection, with the adoption scheduled for the December 15th public meeting. So I would be looking for the board to make a motion to authorize that advertisement. And at this time, you would also need to make a decision about specifically the fire fund, which funds the fire department operations.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion and then we'll open it up, of course, to public comment to authorize the advertisement of the proposed 2026 budget, which is all funds as being available for public inspection, which would include 11 new hires with the fire department at a millage increase of 1.15, I believe it was. Yes. Okay, thank you. Second. Any public comment? Okay, seeing none.
Actually, there's comment that I received from Supervisor-elect Eric Pelletier, who asked me to read this. It says, "Good evening, members of the board. My name is Eric Pelletier, and I'm a resident of Montgomery Township and Supervisor-elect for the Board of Supervisors. I want to begin by acknowledging that the conversation around fire and emergency services is critically important. None of us dispute that call volume has increased, response times have changed, and volunteer availability has declined statewide. Ensuring that Our residents are protected is a fundamental responsibility of local government, and I fully support taking steps that genuinely strengthen the safety and well-being of this community. However, I'm deeply concerned about the process by which this proposal to increase full-time firefighting staff has been advanced. When the idea of expanding full-time staffing was first raised in October of 2024, I believe, the township should have immediately authorized a truly independent third-party staffing study, the kind of objective assessment that other municipalities routinely rely on when making decisions of this magnitude. Instead, the township pursued an internal study with information that has changed numerous times, with key data points, assumptions, and conclusions shifting from one version to the next. And yet, despite these inconsistencies, some members of this board appear prepared to make a decision that will have a long-term financial impact on the township and its residents, including through a tax increase based on information that is at best incomplete and at worst fundamentally flawed. If I were in a position to vote on a proposal of this significance, particularly one that involves public safety staffing levels, infrastructure planning, and taxpayer dollars, I would not in good conscience be able to move forward based on data that continues to change in advance of each meeting. A decision of this scale must be defensible, both to the public and to future boards. As it stands, this decision would not be defensible. We all want the same outcome, a department that is properly staffed, properly equipped, and able to protect our community. But the process matters, and right now, the process is not sound. Therefore, I respectfully urge the board to table this proposal until the next budget cycle. Use that time to commission a comprehensive independent staffing and facilities study, one that evaluates current and projected needs, compares regional models, examines facility requirements, and provides a clear rationale for any long-term staffing recommendations. Only with accurate, objective, and consistent information can the board make a decision that is responsible, defensible, and worthy of the residents you serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for Eric's letter.
I'd like to second Eric's comments. We've gone all over the place, started at 19, down to 5, 7, 11. The numbers have bounced all over the place. And quite honestly, I don't know that anybody in the public really knows what the numbers are and that anybody can defend them wholeheartedly by showing what the calculations were for overtime, for all the equipment, and where that's going to lead to the future. So my recommendation is that it does either get tabled or you take no action simply because there is nothing out there. The last thing you have is the minutes where you published 4 options and we question the numbers behind those options. There was nothing else posted to the website showing the 11 proposal. So I'm sitting here in this meeting going, what's actually on the 11 proposal? There's no paperwork anywhere for anybody to look at. And that's a disservice to the community because you're going to vote on something and the rest of us really don't know what those numbers represent. So
I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, we're voting on advertising,
but
but we're on with a higher of 11, which you're saying numbers are not out there. Numbers would be out there.
But you're advertising something that has not been vetted through the public. You're going to basically say, this is our endorsed proposal. And you're basically just saying that and hoping that everybody's going to buy into it. And I'm not buying into it. You should put it out there, let people debate it, and then you should take an action on it rather than the other way. So thank you.
Thank you, Henry.
Hello, Jay Wachowski, Pinecrest. So my one question is, why 11? What's the numbers behind it that justify that's the right number? Is it going to make us meet response times?
So, and there has been conversation on the 11, but I'll turn it over possibly to Chief. Can you jump in or?
How did we come up with 11 now?
4 shifts with 4 firefighters on a shift.
Okay.
That's how we came up with 11.
And that will give us what response time?
Well, hopefully, it will hopefully duplicate the response time that the career staff has shown effective.
Is that 9 minutes?
No, that's 4 minutes and 35 seconds.
So we'll be 4 minutes across the board now with 11.
I would hope so. I mean, they'll probably be a little bit different at night. Maybe a 30-second difference depending if they're in their bunks when the call comes out. But 11 is the number that we would need to hire to have 4 full-time firefighters on 4 platoons.
Okay. So 11 is we're hiring 4 more full-time, or
No, we would need to hire
11 more.
We have
we'll
5. So we'd have
18
16.
total.
We'd have 16 total.
Okay, I thought we had 7 already.
Well, we have 5 firefighters, a chief, and an assistant chief.
Oh, okay, so 5 firefighters plus 11 will give us 15 total.
We
No,
give us 16
total.
total. Divided
Okay.
by 4 is 4 on a shift.
Okay, so will that give us 2472?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And you expect the response times to be in the 4, well under 9.
I would hope that they would be well under 9. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
She can. Go ahead.
My question, I'm sorry, John Crow, 422 South Stone Ridge Drive. My question is around the whole topic is, what are the ancillary cores that no one's talked about? Extra equipment? Is the firehouse capable of accommodating these firefighters? I have a cousin who's a firefighter in Philadelphia, and I know what their accommodations are like. So I have concerns in that area that all the cash is not on the table, so to speak. Okay. And it's just something, a concern I have. I also have concerns about the numbers. I also have concerns about the process. The first I found out about it was when I got a postcard in the mail. First time, and that was, unfortunately, I had granddaughter's birthdays and stuff, so I couldn't make that meeting. So I thought I'd make this one, just lay out my concerns. It's a powerful increase for senior citizens. Okay, so ask you to dwell on it.
Thank you, John.
Carla Helizak, Lansdale. So I'd like to echo what Eric wrote. I think it's very well written, and I think it expresses the concerns of a lot of residents. Again, no one is discounting the need for a sound fire department, police department, EMS department. I think we all agree that the numbers have been, for whatever reason, all over the place. Not justifiable, constantly being corrected. That is a complete disservice to the residents. I don't understand why it's taking so long to post information on the website with different scenarios. I don't understand why you don't have metrics on the website as to, okay, we're going to hire 4, and if we improve by X percent, we'll hire 4 more, or we won't hire 4 more. I think that the best option is to get a group of citizens together to help. There seems to be a small group of people putting these numbers together, but it's unfair. The tax burden to the residents is just, it's too much, especially with our aging population. So I would ask you to please take a more conservative approach. You can always raise taxes and hire more, but once you get that tax burden on people and once you hire employees, especially union, it's very difficult to reduce that. So please be considerate of the tax burden that you are about to impose on the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Carla.
Any other public comment?
My question. I also want to say I agree with what Eric's saying and what Carl's saying. We don't want these decisions made and then it becomes a blunder, aka the Grays Lane situation. We don't need these decisions made that just people aren't thinking through. So we need transparency and we need to make sure everything is correct before we make these decisions.
Thank you, Mike.
Any others? Okay, so we'll take a vote on this, in favor of the motion I made. In favor, yay. Aye.
Before I explain my vote, I want to just read a statement here. I want to begin by first expressing my sincere gratitude to our volunteer and career firefighters. Their service and professionalism are among this community's greatest strengths. And my concerns relate to the plot process and the planning around this proposal, and not to the people who protect our residents every day. From the start, I've acknowledged that expanding staffing is not only a question of, it's not so much a question of if, but when. Declining volunteerism locally means that we have to plan for our future. But responsible planning requires a comprehensive independent fire study, and we do not yet have that. And because of that, I do not support committing to any permanent expansion at this time. What I can support is a 1.0 mil tax increase that would prepare us for the future without locking us into a model that we've not validated. My preference would be to allocate a portion of that 1 mil to the fire fund to establish a responsible reserve for future expansion after an independent study is complete, and then to allocate the remaining portion to the capital reserve fund. And that's going to be depleted, as we saw in the budget presentation, by the end of 2027. So we need to secure additional resources to plan effectively for that future. This approach would strengthen our long-term financial position while preserving flexibility and transparency. However, I cannot support any tax increase above 1.0 mils. A higher tax increase presupposes a specific staffing plan that has not yet just been justified through independent analysis. It places a permanent burden on taxpayers, especially those on fixed incomes, without the supporting data that such a generational and permanent decision requires. If the board chooses a scenario above 1.0 mils, I will be a no vote. If the board will not support a portion of the millage increase to be used for the capital reserve fund, I'm a no vote. And to our residents, I want to make this very clear. Tonight will not be the final word. The second-class township code allows the new board, beginning in January, to reopen the budget. And I fully intend to move for that so that we can commission a proper fire study to make an informed, defensible decision on staffing and capital planning. Once again, to our firefighters, I want to say thank you. My goal is to support you in a way that is sustainable, transparent, and worthy of the trust that this community places in all of us. Nay.
I do think it's worthy of mentioning that, we were presented with this over a year ago. And, it has continued to be the issue of how do you price safety? What price do you put on safety? Numbers did show that we had an issue within our township. And so our chief, with his wisdom and conversation with community and conversation with his leader and leaders of his organization, it was discussed and talked about what the staffing, and also reaching out to his counterparts and reaching out to other municipalities. It was discussed on what made sense from a staffing perspective. And so Chief did come to us with the 19. And so folks are asking, which there has been conversation around the other numbers. To be quite honest, I thought that, it should be 5 on a truck. The minimum is 4. So we brought it down to taking into consideration the community and the tax burden for all of us as well. So, this was not done in a bubble. This was by no means done in a bubble. And, it's one of those things that I pray we continue to stay safe while we still, figure this out. We have been fortunate. And, I'm thankful for that. I'm prayerful that that'll continue to be the case while we continue to work through what Ms. Bamford clearly states she plans on doing. So that's all I have to say about it. And you're a nay, and go ahead.
So I will ditto what Miss Bamford said and what Eric has already said via letter. He was not able to be here because he's not feeling well. I feel as if my confidence is not where it should be. I feel as if I had someone if there was a independent consultant that could come in and show us, these are the scenarios. And we're making assumptions here that are very limited. So I took it upon myself to, well, let me see what the interwebs say about fire studies. Well, interestingly, a 2472 was not something that was even in the mix. So I'm thinking, well, why are we even considering something that is not even mentioned as one of the 4 or 5, 6 best things out there? I'm not saying it's not there. I'm not negating that. And what I want, what is best for our firefighters and for our community safety. But we also have to have balance on what is protecting our community and how are we protecting our firefighters and what they are doing as a service to our community. Mm-hmm. To do so, I feel as if we need to really iron this out, have solid numbers, have a greater understanding to our community, to our taxpayers, so we're not putting them into something where someone today said to me, Beth, this is a bell that can't be unrung. If you ring this bell, you can't unring it. So we have to be sure what we're doing. And so I'm a no vote on this, because I have grave concerns about where we are going. The information is out there. I feel as if it's not consistent, and my confidence is not where I can really defend that to people who would want to call me and ask me, why did you do that? Why are you doing this to me? And we understand the safety is paramount. And we do have sincere gratitude for what our firefighters do. But I do think that the scenarios that have been put in front of us are making assumptions that I don't necessarily see as the only options. So let's look at what those options are, take our time on this, and if needed, we'll reopen it in January. So that's our back pocket.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, you've got the vote. Correct? You've got your vote?
I would just like to ask a question for the record. If the budget is reopened, what is the burden on staff? What is the additional cost? Do we have any idea of any of that? Not to put you on the spot, but if it's going to happen, we'll be prepared for it.
So I can't think of any additional cost off the top of my head. The burden, if you will, it's no different than preparing for any other meeting. I mean, it's always in the back of a manager's mind that a new board can, that's why it's put in the code the way it is, that a budget can be reopened. My bigger concern is having a budget in place by 12/31, because we're required by law.
So we won't.
No, we will.
We will.
We will have one.
Well,
It will be
reopened.
it will be changed.
It's gonna be open.
Thank you.
Okay. And with regard to the study, I don't think anyone, you're saying a full comprehensive. I think the staffing piece of it, that's always been my place, that I feel that Chief has done the work from a staffing perspective. When we start looking at infrastructure and everything else, I 100% agree. Some sort of study needs to be done. I just question with doing it early, because that's one of the things he said that we didn't need to pay attention to right now, meaning that somewhere down the line, infrastructure and so forth. But if we do a study today and we don't make any moves with that for, say, 5 years, that's dated information. And so we may need to look at doing another one at that time. But I agree with a study from the standpoint of everything else pertaining the staffing piece. And initially, we were only talking about staffing, and the staffing piece of it, the work had been done.
And I just think it's amazing that we don't want to spend an extra as residents. I will be off of the board come January. I understand that. I'm still paying my taxes here. I am a sole property owner. I have no other income coming in. An average of $20, $25 a month. That to me is an insurance policy on my home. spoke about sewer policies. We have different policies that are available to us. And on one side of the coin, we're saying, oh yeah, we appreciate our firefighters, and yet we're not willing to give them what they need to help protect our properties. Shame on us.
I would say that the intent is to come up with an even better plan and do it with greater visibility than we have to date and transparency. So that's the intent moving forward. But you have your vote, so enjoy it.
And I'll be a resident in January.
Okay, moving on. Thank you, everyone, for the conversation. Item number 9, award bid for township facilities, waste and single stream recyclable materials collection and disposal. Carolyn McCreary. Did I skip
Madam
something?
Chair, we skipped number
Did I
8,
skip something?
which is the fire tax.
Oh my goodness. Why am I totally missing that page? Can I see your
Would you like me to read it?
I got it. Thank you. Item number 8, authorization to advertise ordinance for the establishment of a fire tax. Carolyn McCreary. Thank you.
So based on the board's recent vote to include the hiring of 11 new firefighters in the fire department's budget, we would be looking at millage of an additional 1.15 mils. So this motion would authorize us to advertise the ordinance for the establishment of a fire tax. And with this ordinance, this would show up as a separate item on property owners' tax bills. Right now, they have their township tax, and if there's a streetlight tax they are paying, that shows up at a separate line item. This would then as well. Then we would notify the tax collector to revise the real estate tax bills to show this as a separate line item. Currently, out of the current real estate tax of 2.94 mils, we internally allocate 0.56 mils towards fire protection. So staff is recommending that the board authorize the advertisement of this ordinance, which would be prepared by the township solicitor.
So with the 0.56 that's currently allocated to fire, that'll move also to its own line item plus?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? Okay, I make a move. I'm sorry.
Can I ask, is this something that other municipalities have done to separate out their fire tax?
Yes, if the municipality knows that they want to increase millage for the purpose of fire or EMS, which is actually a separate millage that could be established as well, in order to give the public the confidence that the money is actually being used for those purposes. It can only be used for those purposes. And that's why a municipality would establish that tax. Once it's established by the ordinance, hopefully you don't need to do an ordinance each year, but to establish it as a new type set aside of the tax, it's what municipalities would do. They want to make sure the money's allocated to that.
Okay, good. That sounds good.
Okay, I found it.
Madam Chair, there's a question from the public.
I'm sorry.
I just have one quick question. I didn't understand what the millage increase was.
Well, the proposed is 1.15.
Is that on top of anything that exists or what?
No, that's the increase we're looking at.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Kelly Elizardo, 119 Embassy Drive. Can you please clarify what the total fire tax will be? My understanding is it's 1.15 plus the existing 0.56 mils that are going towards fire right now.
I'm sorry?
That's correct.
Thank you. So it'll be a total of 1.71 mils for fire.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, he asked what the increase was for, I believe you
Well,
asked for the increase. Oh, total of everything.
So,
Okay.
so again, it's a
1.71. So that's the existing 0.5 and then the potential increase.
Homer Elizardo again. Just asking a clarification. So if you put the tax in place, then that means no money from the general funds will be reallocated to the fire department in the future. Is that correct?
Well, the existing 0.56, which is being used for the fire department through the general funds, would be
Which is the question we asked before. Is it just going to be 1.15 as the tax and you're still going to do
No, we're gonna-
0.56?
my understanding is we're going to bring over the money that's already in the general fund.
Allocated to fire.
It could be taken away, could be used for anything else. It's in the general fund. Right now, it's used at 0.56 for those fire services.
But that's an allocated. from
That's going to be
the total
moved over. That's going to be moved over. So it's not going to be an increase. It's just going to be moved
Right,
over
but that's a 1.71.
into that
tax bill.
1.71. So that 0.56 and the new increase of the 1.15 would be what would be shown on your tax bill going towards fire services.
Okay, in that case, then I think it needs to be redone from a tax standpoint that you move all the funds directly in and the tax covers the 0.56 plus the 1.15. So you know exactly what you're getting. In that case, now you can keep the general fund totally separate from everything else in the fire department. And that way it becomes a very clear indication that you're not taking money and moving it around all over the place to the people in the public. So if you're going to advertise it, it's not clear from what was presented in the sample letter what the number will be and how, whether it was going to include that existing 0.56. So let's be clear.
The ordinance will be advertised at 1.71 for the fire tax services.
Okay, thanks
for the
for clarifying
special
that.
mills, just for those fire tax services.
Okay, thank you.
So this is not a budget specific ordinance advertisement, right? This is an ordinance that would go into effect prior to 2026. Is that what you're saying? If we were to advertise this,
This ordinance would establish
the fire tax,
which would be effective, but the fire tax wouldn't be effective till 2026. If there was a desire to then amend that millage, you could also then amend that down easily.
Okay.
With any reopening of the budget.
With the reopening of the budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
This is, we're creating an ordinance just to create that fire tax line item.
Correct.
Just to have its
Right,
own line item. That's what this is that we're talking about right this second.
Which I think fundamentally is
Makes
a
sense.
good thing.
Makes perfect sense.
Kelly Elizardo again. What other possible line items could exist in our township taxes? I've heard streetlights. I've heard fire. I could tell you were looking something up. Thank you.
I think library can be a separate line item.
Okay. Police services cannot.
No, EMS can, there's a state law for EMS and fire that allows us to put so much millage into those specific purposes.
Is there a maximum on fire services by state law?
Yes.
What is that, please?
In Montgomery County, it would be 10 mills. Now, that's not the same as every other county right now. It's only Montgomery, Bucks, and Delaware County that are able to take advantage of that. And I believe it's 5 free EMS services, which would be a separate line. The second class township code also would provide different line items for sort of park and recreations, maintaining fire hydrants, more specific fire suppression employee salaries only, and then additionally, emergency services, as was mentioned, library taxes, but there are a number of itemized taxes that could be imposed through different codes.
Okay, thank you.
Open space is something that would have to take a referendum vote on for an open space tax. Some municipalities have that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Open space. This is open space. Yeah.
Motion to authorize the advertisement of an ordinance establishing a fire tax in the township.
Second.
Any additional public comment? So this is just establishing the line item for fire tax.
Well, I think we are
but
going to need
we
to,
talk,
we're going to need to have a rate. Yeah. We are going to need to have a rate with the initial tax as well. So as the manager said, that if there was a majority vote for the 11 new hires, which would require that 1.15 millage increase. So
Right.
that 1.15 millage increase together plus with the 0.56 would be an initial fee of 1.71
right.
for the initial ordinance to be advertised.
Oh, okay. You got to put a figure in. Gotcha. Okay.
So we should vote on that.
Making a vote.
So this is, I'm a no vote for this. I think this, the fire tax is smart. My no is about the 1.71. So it's a no for me.
Likewise, I approve of the idea of a fire tax, but I don't approve of the actual number in the fire tax. So I will be a no vote on this as well.
Okay, and I'm a yes vote.
I'm going to be a yes vote, and I'll just quickly say why. Bill started out with the plan of 19. I asked for a compromise. What is the minimum that he could work with and make his plan work and allow the new hires and the current hires to have that mental health schedule that keeps everyone safe. I want these people that are going to come to my house if I'm having a heart attack, house on fire, anything, carbon monoxide. I want them to have the mental health that everyone really needs to have, especially in that profession. I'm a yes for that. I'm a yes for that, for just to keep everyone safe and healthy.
And I'm a yes, because this establishes the line item for the fire tax. Our solicitors already indicated this will be advertised, and if it needs to be reduced, because as Ms. Bamford's already promised, she's reopening this. If that goes down, then that can easily be done. This is establishing that line item that we will see in our taxes, so we know what is going towards fire. So that's why I'm a yes vote.
Great. All right, moving on to item number 9, award bid for township facilities waste and single stream recyclable materials collection and disposal. Carolyn McCurry.
The current 3-year contract for waste and recyclable collection and disposal for township facilities will expire on December 31st of this year. The board authorized the advertisement of a bid for a new 3-year contract at your meeting on October 27th. Staff received and opened 4 bids on Tuesday, November 18th at 10 a.m. The bid tabulation included in your packet. Whitetail Disposal was the lowest responsible bidder with a bid of $55,828.80. BFI Waste Services of Pennsylvania LLC bid $56,650.72. Waste Management of Pennsylvania Incorporated bid $71,618.76. And JP Mascara and Sons bid $124,200. Staff is recommending that the board award the bid to Whitedale Disposal LLC for a 3-year contract commencing January 1, 2026 for $55,828.80. The previous 3-year contract cost was $70,707.17.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Carolyn, who was our previous provider? Was it Mascara?
Mascara.
Our current Republic. Oh, it was
Oh,
Republic.
I thought it was Mascara too. Are we familiar with Whitehall?
Whitetail.
Whitetail.
Yeah,
sorry.
yes, as a for residential, I am. Yeah, that's your pick.
That's it. Oh, okay.
They come every week.
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize a 3-year contract for township facilities, trash and recyclable material collection and disposal to Whitetail Disposable LLC, commencing on January 1, 2026, at the cost of $55,828.80.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 10, authorization for surplus items to be sold on municipal bid. Blaine Bergy.
On October 13, 2025, the township authorized the disposal of surplus assets through Municipit, an online auction platform. The auction concluded successfully on November 11, 2025. Included in this document is a listing of the 20 items that were sold, totaling $131,702, which will be received within 30 days of the Board of Supervisors' approval. It is recommended that the board authorize the sale of the above listed items to the highest bidders. And there's a list there on the bids.
Okay, so the recommendation is for the board to authorize it. Okay.
And this 131,702 goes into the general fund, Carolyn? Is that? or
No, it goes
Blaine,
into
or-
the capital because that's
Capital.
where the items were purchased out of. So it would go into the capital reserves fund.
Thank you.
Turn off so it doesn't shine over. Okay, any other questions? We're gonna make a motion to authorize the sale of the above listed equipment to the highest bidders as noted.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 11 is to consider approval of sale of engine 18. Chief Wigman.
Good evening. The board approved the sale of Engine 18 and Squad 18-1 during your meeting on September 22nd, 2025. The engine was initially valued between $40,000 and $65,000. On November 6th, the department received a new appraisal for Engine 18, estimating its worth between $30,000 and $50,000. This updated appraisal was conducted at the department's request after obtaining additional information regarding the truck's mileage and coordinating with our engineering staff, Glick Fire Safety Equipment, and department service provider. So basically, when the truck was listed, the mileage was wrong. And we caught that. So that's good. So the department received an official offer from the purchase of Engine 18 from Muhlenberg Township Fireman Relief Association on November 5th, 2025. Muhlenberg Township's Fireman Relief Association offered $32,500. Fireline Equipment executed the listing, and the sale agreement will be executed if approved tonight. The board previously approved Fireline Equipment to assist with the sale of Engine 18 at a 7% commission. These are also the people who sold our tower truck the last time we had an apparatus for sale. The sale will positively impact the township budget. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors approve the department's sale of Engine 18 to Muhlenberg Township for $32,500 with a 7% listing agreement fee will pay to Fireline Equipment LLC. That listing fee, that 7%, would be $2,275.
Okay, any questions? Make a motion to approve the fire department's sale of engine 18 to Muhlenberg Township for $32,500 with a 7% listing and agreement fee payable to Fireline Equipment LLC. The listing fee would be $2,275.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12, consider request for kennel renovations. Chief Peoples.
Thank you. The Montgomery Township Police Department building, including the detached police kennel, was constructed in 1966. As part of the original project, the police kennel was outfitted with cabinets and a sink area intended for the care of the police canines and the storage of police equipment and food. After 29 years of continuous use, the cabinets and sink have deteriorated and are now in need of replacement. As part of the 2025 budget process, 3 quotes were solicited and received for renovations to the police kennel. Attached is a proposal from JJ and Son Construction LLC for the renovation and replacement of the existing cabinets and sink area for a total amount of $17,375. The total of $17,000 was included in the 2025 approved final budget. Police Department capital replacement for the renovations of the police kennel. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve the projected fund for the renovations of the police kennel.
Any questions? Okay, we'll make a motion to approve the contract with J and Sons General Construction LLC for the removal and replacement of the existing cabinets and sink area in the police kennel for a total amount of $17,375.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the dog.
I know.
Right.
We're all dog people, so.
Yeah. Item 13, authorization to advertise amendment to chapter 140, ordinance 25-349, mobile food vendors. Mary McConnell.
Thank you. Staff is requesting the authorization to advertise for proposed amendments to the Montgomery Township Code, Chapter 140, updating provisions for mobile food vendors. Township staff and consultants have had the opportunity to review the details of the proposed text amendments. We recommend that the Board of Supervisors authorize the advertisement to amend Chapter 140 of the Code of Montgomery Township as presented.
Any questions? Okay, we'll make a motion to authorize staff to advertise the proposed amendments to Chapter 140 of the Code of Montgomery Township as presented.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 14, review of zoning hearing board applications. Mary Ann McConnell.
Included in your packet is a summary of the application before the zoning hearing board for their December 3rd, 2025 meeting. The board may remain neutral on the application and let the zoning hearing board render a decision based on the testimony presented, or the board may send the solicitor's office to oppose an application. This action would require motion, second, and vote of the board.
Any questions? Are we all good with?
Yeah. Movie theater.
Okay, so then we'll all remain neutral on the application and we'll let you guys handle. And item 15, just any new business department reports. We don't have anybody specifically speaking, right, Kara?
No, I didn't have anyone scheduled for this evening.
Any comments or questions on the department reports from any of the board? Okay, and then item 16 is our committee liaison reports. So this is an opportunity for all of us to just talk about what's going on with our committees that, our township committees that we're all liaisons to in our board. So I'll start it off with my seniors. We have our Santa breakfast. That's been the talk of the town now for December 13th. And we just had our meeting last week and we talked about doing some additional tables because, as everyone probably knows, it sold out in like 2 seconds when it
was Floyd actually said 3 minutes at the CRC committee meeting. He said it was 3 minutes. It sold out.
3 minutes. Yeah. They sell out pretty quickly and we've expanded it. It's gotten bigger. So right on the spot, literally, I went in to talk to Floyd. He was in near his office to say, hey, can we do more than typically we do 200 people? And he said that we could because we've now moved it into the gym area, we could do more. The biggest scuttlebutt has been the lack of chairs. We don't have enough chairs. So the seniors, we said, okay, once we finish the one breakfast at 9 o'clock, we'll rally up some chairs and move them over to the other side so that we can, bring in some additional tables. So we are upping the count for the first time. It's going to be 250 people. And Floyd does have a list. I didn't know this, still talking to him the other day, a wait list. So they're making calls out to people to say, hey, we have, some additional seating. And so are you able to join us? So that was good to hear good to hear, but not good to hear. We've got such a list. So if it goes well, because we probably could do more than that in the gym area. We'll see how it goes this year. We said 50 felt comfortable to kind of increase it, and then we'll see how it goes, and then maybe the following year do 300.
Yeah.
We'll see. So that was it for me. I think Blaine, not to put you on the spot, I think the finance committee's having a meeting. Yeah, December 1, right? Yeah. So let's talk about budgets. So. And that's all I got.
Okay, for the Environmental Advisory Committee, we will actually be meeting tomorrow night, but I will give you a little snapshot of what's happening. One of the big efforts there that the Environmental Advisory Committee is doing is proposing, which we've met with the Parks Board about this as well, creating small segments of certain areas within our township where we can have what we call a no-mow zone. So there's some parcels, some portions of Rose Twig Park, which are behind the parking lot area, kind of closer to the bridge, where they will still have a mowed area around the walking area where people will be, but they're going to decrease the amount of mowing that will happen in this one kind of non-utilized part of the park. And similarly, a lot for Spring Valley Park, along the roadway. They will still mow along the road, but then there's going to be some place adjacent to a wooded area along the road that comes in from Upper State Road. And then also at Memorial Grove, which is on Keenest Road, they are going to be proposing a native meadow to be put in there. So it sounds like it's the same, but there's a little bit more of an installation that will take place. But this is really important, not only for pollinators, but for water runoff and the naturalization of some of these areas that we as a society have to kind of get off of we need to mow and make everything look perfect and pristine, because it's really not in the best interest of our environment. So anyway, these things will be coming before the board, but we're kind of finalizing. I think there's been some proposals to the board already, and we're kind of getting closer to these final stages of this. But it's kind of like open space, but it will have very little impact financially. In fact, it may save some money because less mowing, less emissions from the mowers, less time from our public works department, et cetera. So anyway, we'll have more details coming soon. We'll be meeting tomorrow night, and I'll catch up with you next month. All right.
So Parks Board, we've had some reports on the dog park, and we have 2 dog parks currently. We got the new one on Knapp, and then there's the old one that sits behind the Aussie Plaza. So there's been some question as to what the future of the old dog park will be. Ironically, it's still being used because there's so much more shade available at that facility. So that is something that continues to be discussed about the long term, how we're going to utilize that particular facility. Also working on grant opportunities for the historic farmhouse renovation there, and trying to still identify a nonprofit partner to potentially do like a public-private partnership to assist with that renovation. So nothing has been determined to date. For the sewer authority, I just want to say that we're promoting an insurance program. The sewer authority is promoting an insurance program for your exterior line. And I purchased that insurance policy, and I will just say how grateful I am to our sewer authority for offering that program, because as it so happens, we had our sewer line back up, and it turns out there's root intrusion, and the whole thing, this whole excavation project that is going to be happening. If you happen to drive by Twining Road tomorrow, you'll see all the excavation equipment out there digging up my front lawn. But it's all going to be covered by this insurance program. So I just wanted to express my gratitude to our sewer authority for offering that, and encourage people, if you haven't already taken advantage of it, definitely look into it.
And that's through a legit insurance company. It's not like through, yeah. So I know a lot of people have gotten this in the mail, and you always think, is this like a scam or not? It's not. it's actually
It's
legit.
not, it's totally legit and well worth the investment.
Mhm. I was lucky enough to be on vacation last week, so I have nothing to report. I was unable to go to my committees.
The CRC committee meeting, parking lot lights are a priority for 2026. We are actually looking at solar lights actually being a better price than they were before. Santa breakfast, where I said 3 minutes, that was sold out. Floyd is actually working already on Kids U. So those who have children are aware there are 170 kids per day that will attend Kids U, and there's a waiting list for every year. Every year we hire 40 to 50 people to help with Kids U. And we actually need 8 weeks at Montgomery Elementary. So Floyd's trying to work that out instead of going back and forth with the rec center. So we're hoping to work that out. Floyd's working on that. The other thing is the holiday craft fair that's coming up next Saturday, December 6th from 10 to 2. If you haven't gone to that, attend. It's really a great event. Lots of vendors out for that. Public safety. I will start with police. I know we have our bus patrol numbers that we always like to hear about. 145 people that have blown through the bus patrol. 107 were approved or cited, and 13 hearings were requested in October. Red light cameras, 792 violations with 666 approved and cited. So people need to slow down, watch for school buses, and continue with that. The VMSC had 175 calls in Montgomery Township, and 9 of those were cardiac. A reminder that leaf collection is this Saturday curbside in the brown compostable bags. And the sweeper has been repaired for now. So we're still waiting for the new one, but the old one has been tweaked and working with that. Chief Peoples let us know that the Grays Lane state report actually came in. The engineers meeting will be the next step for discussing that. And interestingly enough, chicanes was one of the top recommendations.
Wow.
Okay. So we weren't too far off. As a last announcement, talking point, I want to thank the fire department for having me out last Monday. I went to just sit in on a training, and they talked about elevator rescues, which was very interesting to see the different types of keys and the different things that happen with an elevator rescue. And that so, there are elevators in Montgomery Township. From our reports, October 9th and October 25th, Luxor had issues with their elevators. So thank you to our police our fire department for taking care of that. And that's my 2 committees.
Can I ask a quick question? I don't know, Annette, if you have the answer to Peoples. I see a lot of commentary on the interwebs about the red light cameras. Just to be clear, how much money do we make as a township on the red light cameras?
So the red light camera, it's an outside company that
Thank
there's
you.
no money that costs to the township for this program. It's completely funded by this company. The monies go towards the equipment itself and the payment of the officers that sit down and take the time to review it, as well as the hearings. But there's
So we
no
don't
money
make
out.
any money at all.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the public hears that, because they keep thinking that we're lining our pockets, and there is no pocket lining.
Right
Sorry to
there with the-
disappoint.
Right there with the bag fee that we don't collect
Exactly.
either.
And also the bag fees we don't get either. So yes. Thank you. Thank you. That was a rhetorical question, but I needed to have it out in the public.
I'm sorry, Annette or Chief, can you just repeat about the traffic calming, what it came through and where is it now? What's happening right now?
There's a meeting tomorrow. I don't want to speak on behalf of the township manager, but there is a meeting tomorrow. It's a sub meeting of the engineers group that's going to be meeting tomorrow to discuss the next steps forward.
Great. It's making its way up to the board again.
Good.
Okay. Great. Okay, is that it? We will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
You see these?